Howdy, howdy, it's Trisha Lee. I'm here in Alberta, Canada, and joining me is my partner, Larry Lever, and he is our inventor, idea maker, extraordinaire. uh, He is the VP of Development for King Sunshine Solar Systems and TK Environmental, and his past includes a company that still is using his patented process for recycling polyurethane, Suncast polyurethanes in Edmonton, Alberta, and Larry sold his interest in that recycling project in about 2008, 2009, and acquired TK Environmental. And so we have just launched a crowdfunding campaign for TK Environmental. And so we thought that for us, going to the bank to fund our project didn't work out. And so we were just thinking that that's probably an experience that has been had by a lot of people who turn to crowdfunding. And so we were thinking about how crowdfunding has grown so quickly and how there's seems to be a shift where companies and projects no longer have to rely on banks and venture capitalists to be able to create their ideas. They can turn directly to the public that they serve in order to fund these projects and ideas. So it's super cool, super excited to be throwing our hat in the ring with a project that we've come up with. And I think that irregardless of the success of our project, I think that we'll be doing more crowdfunding in the future because we've got so many great ideas that we're excited to bring to the world. So Larry, can you give everybody a little overview of crowdfunding?
Oh, it's pretty straightforward. Crowdfunding is pretty much doing what the banks used to do, for businesses at least. It seems like you can have a good idea, and rather than go down to your bank and get turned down on a loan where you have to pay a whole bunch of money back to the bank, crowdfunding makes it possible to do a project for your business or as an individual and have the project funded by people that think your project is interesting.
So I'm super excited to share with everybody a little bit about our project. With TK Environmental, Larry picks up curbside recycling. We have like a blue box program that services Camrose, Alberta for local residents and businesses to have their recycling picked up. And here in Camrose, we have a depot that collects all the recycling, and our program is optional. So you can load up your recycling, hop in your car and drive down there and deliver it yourself, or for a small fee, you can have us pick it up weekly. So we were talking to people when we first started. I did some telephone canvassing, and I talked to a lot of what sounded like little old ladies and gentlemen. We live in a big retirement community that had expressed to me that going to the recycle depot with their papers and bottles and cans was an outing for them that they looked forward to. And I kind of felt like that was a little sad that your entertainment as a senior in this community is to go to center camp. And that's all fine and good, but my issue with it is that all this traffic that is being created with people loading up their cars and going to center cam and their own wherewithal, definitely that is creating greenhouse gases, just like our big stinky diesel truck creates greenhouse gases. So in thinking of ways that we could better market our service to the community and encourage more people to subscribe to the service and stop firing up their cars and burning gas to go and deliver their recyclables themselves, we came up with this idea, which we think will minimize greenhouse gases in our own community and has the potential to be like a global franchise that could reduce literally hundreds of thousands of tons of greenhouse gas emissions all over the world. With our recycle truck, much like a garbage truck, it moves really slowly down alleys and on streets, starting, stopping, starting, stopping, and the whole time there's carbon monoxide fumes being blasted out of the tailpipe. And so we had been looking at electric vehicles, and they're still way out of our price reach. We're looking for $50,000 for our campaign to replace our truck with horses and wagons. I think to meet our requirements with an electric vehicle would be like 100K plus. So you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, Larry. And do you want to just give your kind of your overview of our project? Our Indiegogo is what we went with, but we'll talk about that in a bit. But do you just want to give an overview of our crowdfunding project?
Well, we're wanting to switch from using the diesel burning truck to using horse and wagon, also known as a horse drawn vehicle. I guess that's the correct term for it. I just learned that last night. But basically, we're going to eliminate about 14 tons of greenhouse gases once we get the horses and recycle wagon out on the streets of Camrose. So we don't have, we'll basically be parking the recycle truck. And what this is really going to do is it's going to raise, I think, a really big part of this. I remember when you and I talked about it, a big part of this project has to do with several different factors. One of the biggest factors is, why don't people recycle? And that is also in our video in our Indiegogo campaign. That statement is said by my 7-year-old son. And it's a question that I think a lot of people have. So what we're doing is we're trying to raise awareness of how important it is to recycle. And there are people out there that basically they just don't get it. They think plastic can go to a landfill and just disintegrate and turn into soil, just like compost, but it doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, plastics is one of the worst things that can end up in the landfill, especially things like plastic bags. People put their trash into a grocery bag or some kind of lightweight polyethylene bag, and it ends up in the landfill. What happens is the contents of the bag will actually disintegrate, and at the end of that, what you're left with is this bag with particles of things in the bag that are usually leftover plastics that will get caught up in the wind. How often have you been driving down the road and go, oh, look, there's a big black garbage bag in that tree, ha ha ha. Well, a lot of people don't think that there's things that live in the trees that we don't usually think about. Birds, animals or insects, things like that. And when you put something like a plastic bag into the tree, it affects their life simply because that bag will not biodegrade. They can find food scraps on the bag, possibly. There's some birds that might do that, or some sort of animal. And we have a lot of evidence. There's been lots of photos and documentation of animals that have been affected by things like plastic bags or types of plastic that enter their food chain. And then the next thing you know, they're not able to, they tried to digest the plastics and they get stuck in their intestines and they die. So every time you put your garbage into a plastic bag and it goes to the landfill, that's not always the end result, but it can be the end result. So what we're doing with this crowdfunding, this Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign, is by getting horses out there to pick up recycling. We're raising the awareness for people to do more recycling. TK Environmental currently has only got about Well, used when we started it was less than 4%, but it's up to around 15 to 20% of the residents actually using the service. Why is that not good? Well, it should actually be 100% of the people should be using the service. And I can explain to you why. The reason why is that most people are not driving electric vehicles yet. So what are they driving? They're driving another fossil fuel burning vehicle to haul their recycling down to the recycle depot, because you don't see people walking down there with their recycling. So by raising awareness to the importance of recycling, and to once again to get the greenhouse gas reductions of using horse and wagon rather than a diesel burning truck, it's just a win-win situation because you're actually doing both things at the same time. And I should also mention that as part of our program, because we're in an area or a region here, the climate can the climate can get very cold in winter. It can get down to -40, and when we have those kinds of conditions, not too many people want to go to work, especially horses. But some working horses actually thrive on that condition because they're animals, they're not people, and a lot of the horses that we're going to be using are called Clydesdales, and they're very similar to other draft horses or work horses like Percherons and Belgians, and they're a very strong, robust horse. They've been bred through the years by humans in order to provide us for us as a service, just like we have. What?
Clydesdales specifically were actually bred to be war horses, which is a big part of the reason why they don't spook. Like if you've dealt with horses, you know horses spook. But Clydesdales, they very, very, very seldom spook because they were bred specifically to be out on a battlefield with cannon fodder going around around them. And so they learn to kind of be oblivious to loud noises and a lot of activity around. So they don't spook nearly as often as a lighter horse. So that's a benefit for our project. But I just wanted to explain to anybody out there watching why we've turned to crowdfunding. I already expressed how the bank turned us down for help with this project. We applied for government grant money that was what the grant, the information that, from what I can remember, because it was over a year ago, we've been working on this for a while. What the grant specifically, it was meant to help businesses update their equipment or processes in order to eliminate greenhouse gases. And somehow we didn't qualify for those grants. I'm still scratching my head about how we weren't able to qualify for that money. But anyway, we didn't qualify for that money. So we continued to look for other ways to fund the idea. We talked to local businesses, and well, first we talked to local charities, and we said this is what we want to do, and there's a great advertising opportunity if we talked to the Lions Club. I actually got to do a live presentation for them, and we told them that if they would help us fundraise, that we would offer them free advertising on our wagons. And they never got back to us, so they weren't interested. They at least let us present, though. We also got a hold of the Knights of Columbus and the Rotary Club and a handful of others, and never even got a response. So then we turned to local business owners and said, if you would be willing to loan us this money in lieu of paying back interest, we'll pay you back the loan, and in lieu of interest, we'll give you this advertising opportunity. And so that just has not been working out for us. So we turned to crowdfunding, and initially we had tried to launch a Kickstarter campaign, and that failed because Kickstarter has a lot of rules, and one of the things about Kickstarter is your project has to have a start and an end date. And I think that's the main reason why we didn't qualify, because once we start, we don't want to stop. We just want to expand, move into more communities, and be able to provide this really unique, novelty, environmentally friendly, completely green service to as many people far and wide in as many places as possible to get more and more of these trucks off of the roads, especially considering that these garbage trucks and our recycling trucks spends a lot of time in residential neighborhoods where kids are playing, where animals are outside, where people just want to be able to breathe easily and not have big trucks going around and spewing out poison all around the neighborhood. So definitely we've tried a lot of stuff to make this happen, and irregardless of how our crowdfunding campaign works out, we'll just keep moving forward and come up with new ideas and find new ways of being able to fund it. And definitely with the project, we can do this on our own. However, it's probably going to take us 2 to 3 years without the help of crowdfunding. So potentially, if crowdfunding doesn't work out for us, we will just continue on, and it'll just take a little bit longer. But I feel really confident with the things that we've got planned. We haven't got any significant results with our crowdfunding campaign as of yet. But as we move forward, we have an event planned on Earth Day that will bring a lot of awareness into the community. And a lot of our rewards are geared more towards people that are local here in our community. So it's going to really have to, we're going to really have to get focused in on the customers that we already have. I think that probably about halfway through the campaign, we'll reach out to our customers and make actual phone calls, maybe even beforehand. So we're looking at renting a carriage or possibly a hay wagon, something like what we want to purchase, and having it come to town and give people rides around to build awareness. And we may be partnering up with some other organizations and make it like a full out fundraiser where we will raise funds for some good cause in the community, and at the same time raise awareness of our Kickstarter campaign and potentially raise funds on the internet through that. So it's just really, really exciting, and I just know that we're learning a lot. We're learning a whole lot of stuff. We're building a list of people that are interested in what we're doing, so that future projects that we put forward will have people to rely on to help us with any endeavor that we may come into in the future. And it's been amazing thus far. We've had some people reaching out to us. Someone has reached out offering to post about our campaign on their blog. Someone has offered us a website that it showcases these crowdfunding campaigns, and they've offered us a spot to showcase our campaign. We've been contacting really big outfits like Budweiser. I really feel confident and strongly about Budweiser being one of these corporate advertisers, because our project is really in line with their brand. So I've contacted them, and look forward to hearing replies from all of the amazing bloggers and people that I've been reaching out to, just looking for feedback and wanting to expose them to our idea and create this like beneficial win-win scenario, which to me is what crowdfunding is all about. At the bank, it's not really win-win. It's kind of win-win-lose, because you win by accessing the money from the bank, and the bank wins by getting interest payments from you. But in the long run, you kind of lose because you end up paying more for everything than what it would cost if you just had the cash on hand, which is a great advantage of Kickstarter and Indiegogo and other crowdfunding sites that exist out there. And so a little bit more about the differences between Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Kickstarter, like I said before, has a lot of rules, and Indiegogo has virtually no rules. It's really a lot different, the way that they approach it. And I'm really excited to be with Indiegogo because the founder of the company is a woman, and apparently she created the company to help women because she shared some statistics that like 42% of businesses are headed by females, and only 8% of venture capital backed projects, only 8% of those projects have females on their founding team. And so she wanted to create a way for women who oftentimes are unable to benefit from venture capitalists to be able to fund their businesses and projects. So Kickstarter, you cannot fund charity. Indiegogo, charities are welcome to fundraise. And I don't know, Larry, do you have any other comments about the difference between Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and maybe you can tell people a little bit about the booster campaign that we decided not to go with? And hello?
Well, the real difference, I think, is that they're both crowdfunding platforms. And to be more specific, with our Kickstarter campaign that we launched, it was the fact that we didn't qualify. So with
our Kickstarter campaign, we did not launch it. We attempted.
We tried to launch. Yeah, we put it all together, and then when we put it in the water, it sank. And that wasn't any fault of ours. It was just kind of a misunderstanding between that organization and us. Indiegogo, I like it. It just seems real easy. And I think that's because they've been around for a while. And something people should know: if you use, I've been on the computer since the invention of the internet, and I got really used to using Microsoft products for Internet Explorer. Is how I've always surfed the web. But now Google has become so powerful that a lot of fundraising campaigns, they don't work on Microsoft products. And I was thinking, gee, I wonder why that is. You know, it's a really good question. And I don't know, it might have something to do with Bill Gates' business ethics. Who knows? But all the fundraising, the crowdsourcing platforms that I've looked at, they don't work very good in Microsoft Internet Explorer, but they work fine on Google Chrome. So just a note for anybody out there who's wanting to get into getting funds together for a campaign, for a project. We noticed that we have a business advisor here that we go to sometime to get news and reports as to what's going on. There's a lot of changes going on in Alberta, and we found out that our bank is actually now behind something called the Booster campaign platform. So that just adds to it's really, really getting to be a big opportunity online to start crowdfunding platforms. In fact, there's websites showing you how to do it now. So I think as things progress, the ones that were there at the start, like Indiegogo is one, Kickstarter's one, there's GoFundMe, there's quite a few different ones, but there's ones that I don't even know about that I've just been discovering daily when I looked online for them. And so I imagine banks must really be starting to hurt, because they used to make money, and they still do make money, by giving loans to companies. Um, I shouldn't say giving loans, but companies that qualify for loans with a bank get money from the bank, and the bank charges interest, and you have to pay the loan back. Well, with crowdfunding, that's not even a part of it. And so if banks start getting into crowdfunding or crowdsourcing, I'm not sure how it's going to work for them, because the way I see it, you know, the history of banks with the Illuminati and all that stuff, um, it's like their plans for the new world order might crumble, simply because the internet is becoming more and more powerful every day. Every day, it gets more powerful and affects business. It affects how people buy stuff. A lot of people go online, they buy stuff on you name it, eBay, whatever, and it could be new or used items, but they're not paying taxes on it. I don't know if a lot of people realize that. You can sell things that are brand new on eBay, and you don't have to charge tax. So I'm not sure how they're getting away with that, but it's just something that I noticed. So that that is the whole money scheme behind the internet, not scheme, but the way money works on the internet is kind of baffling to me, because I think eventually the internet will make it, well, I can picture the internet removing borders, because there will be no need for people to live in different countries. They'll just live on the planet. And I don't know if governments are really going to have to exist in the future with the internet, because it's all pretty different. It's unpoliced. It's pretty democratic. If that's
Just to clarify, Larry is talking about our bank. We actually don't deal with a bank. We deal with something called a treasury branch. And so I don't know if traditional banks are really going to get behind crowdfunding the way that this treasury branch is, because I imagine it is disrupting their business a bit. And something else that I just kind of thought of that has to be disrupting the banks would be PayPal. And I just wanted to point out that another reason why we're happy to be with Indiegogo is that they accept PayPal. Kickstarter does not accept PayPal. And so Larry knows a bit more about PayPal than I do, because he's kind of Elon Musk follower. He's one of his legion of followers. And so yeah, I think a site like PayPal, like, it still goes through your bank. However, I imagine in the future they may offer services that allow you to cut out the middleman and just be able to add your money to PayPal somehow and use it that way. I don't know. Do you see PayPal being also disruptive to the banks in addition to crowdfunding, Larry?
I think it's more of a matter of e-commerce. I don't know a lot about e-commerce. It's kind of a buzzword. Um, how that affects the banks, I don't think it's really an apples to apples comparison, because the banks do what they do, and PayPal PayPal is almost more like a credit card online. It's like an online credit card. And so if you look at banks and how they work with credit cards, um, PayPal is a very similar thing as credit, but it can link directly to your bank account. And so if it's linked directly to your bank account and you buy things online, I've never even checked into the service fees for PayPal. Have you?
From what I understand, the fees are on the receiver's end. So if I send you money, you pay the fee. If you send me money, I pay the fee. So it comes out of that. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with PayPal, but at any time they could potentially offer their own banking services and leave the banks kind of high and dry. People have really jaded feelings towards the banks because a lot of reasons, but there's, I think, especially in the US where they had their bailout situation, people just see banks as kind of, and they kind of are at the top, like really just controlling and kind of greed driven. And like when you see what happened with that bailout, the taxpayers paid all this money to kind of save their butts, and then they went out and gave out huge bonuses to these people who had driven them to the brink of bankruptcy. So I think people all over the world would be open to other options for banking than the traditional option that exists at the moment. It's definitely a changing landscape, and it has been a stable landscape for 100+ years. Like the banking system that we rely on now is well established. It's been in place for more than 100 years. And so it's really, really, really encouraging and fascinating to see that landscape being shifted and disrupted by new technologies that are coming out, like the advent of crowdfunding on the internet. So it's just interesting to observe what's going on, and that's kind of the whole point behind doing these hangouts, is just to brainstorm and think about, you know, what things might look like in the future. When you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, it's important to keep tabs on the marketplace, especially the areas of the marketplace that directly affect your company or your type of product or service that you're offering. By keeping tabs on where that market is at currently, it gives you insight that can kind of help you predict where the market is going, and that allows us to be more agile. And I think it's more important for big companies than small companies like ours, because when you're a small company, it's much more easy to adapt to changes than when you're a large corporation. So I think that watching these hangouts and getting involved, maybe participating in future hangouts would just be a benefit to anybody out there that's interested, because it's just a place to share ideas and thoughts, and to kind of give insights as to where we see things moving as we move into the future, and how new technologies are disrupting different areas of the marketplace. And all in all, I think making it the world a much more interesting and better place to live. So you have some more thoughts about the future of the banks in regards to technology and how it's affecting banks, Larry?
Yeah, it's something we haven't really mentioned about crowdfunding is the reason why it's working is because when people donate money to a campaign, they actually get something back. They don't get shares in the company. There might be some crowdfunding platforms that do offer that. I read a little bit up on it, but I haven't really found anything. And so with a bank, if you get a loan from a bank and your business gets going, all you have to do is pay the money back to the bank. You have to pay back your loan. The problem is, a bank generally, and I learned this as a financial planner years ago, it's a matter of one-to-one lending. So what it breaks down to is a bank will give you or loan you money if you already have the money, which sounds kind of nuts. Why are you going to the bank? Just to pay interest? But that's the way it kind of appears, is they do one-to-one lending. Now there are ones that are a little different. You have to really shop around with different banks to see what kind of loans they provide. But that's the coolest thing about crowdfunding is that if somebody comes out with some kind of new electronics doohickey, I can't believe I said that word, doohickey, but some gadget, um, you can be the first to have one. And because the company is just starting up, and if you see something and then you go, wow, that's really cool, you can donate your money to the project, which helps them reach their goal. Excuse me. And you also get something in return. You get a product. Sometimes, like for our campaign, we're not going to provide anybody with a horse if they donate to the campaign, or a big bag of recycling. But which would suck. Who wants a ton of newspaper as a reward? But we could easily do that. You never know. That ton of newspaper might have a lot of value. It might be as valuable as gold in 20 years. Who knows with what's happening with the environment. But anyways, what we offer in our Indiegogo campaign is things that are related to the actual project. We're not offering product. In a sense, we are offering a product, but it's a service-based project. And just reiterating, it's the service based on um, raising awareness to recycling and getting more people to recycle, because horses are cool. For a lot of people though, a lot of people don't like the animals. Some do, some don't. I've seen lots of different opinions. They think that a horse poops or pees while working. That's really a serious biohazard. It's not as bad of a biohazard as a vehicle that's idling carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide beside you in the street. It's also, in the olden days when a horse pooped, it was out in the middle of nowhere or on trails before we even had highways. We didn't have a need for highways. So today, of course, we've got sophisticated things to keep the poop from even hitting the ground. And so we're also going to, I think, dispel a lot of myths about horses and about having horses in working for us again, like we did 100 years ago. They used to work for us all the time. And so I guess I'm a little bit off topic on that, but like I said, the crowdfunding is really about offering something in return for your donation. There's people out there that are donating to campaigns simply because they believe in the campaign, and they'll donate X amount of dollars and not really get anything in return except a thank you note. And I think that's probably the coolest thing, is that those in business they usually call those angel investors. So crowdfunding is a type of investing platform. So if you look at all the other types of investments that are possible, you have venture capitalists, you have, of course, the banks, you have angel investors. And I think that with crowdfunding or crowdsourcing, the people that donate are more in line with being an angel investor, because they don't get a lot of return. Sometimes, sometimes they won't get anything if the project doesn't go off the ground. I remember when I first discovered Kickstarter, I was reading stories about, this is before we even tried a campaign, about companies that got money. They said they were going to do certain things with the money they got. And once they got the money, they did what they intended to do, and then they sold it. Now, I think that's what the crowdfunding platforms are trying to avoid. They're trying to stop that from happening. They're trying to put a stop to people starting projects just as a way of making money and selling it, because that's just wrong. If you look at how and why crowdfunding works, it's because people are passionate about what they're doing. And with Indiegogo, with our project for the horse and wagon, campaign and recycling. Geez, you know, I've been into recycling ever since I read Future Shock in junior high school. I became an environmentalist. So if you don't think my passion is recycling, you don't know me at all. You just have to look at my history of what I've been doing. So with all my business ventures that have usually been all related to some form of recycling or environmental issues. And so that is really what I think crowdfunding has to remain being, is something that the people that are looking for help with their ideas, I think they have to really be looked at. They have to be checked out to make sure they're not fly by night operations, that they're really truly honestly doing what they said they're going to do, and continue on afterwards. And I shouldn't also mention, just recently, actually today, we had conversation with something we didn't even know that existed was happening in the United States, in Vermont. There's already a guy who's been doing this for 18 years, collecting with horse and wagon as basically as his retirement hobby. And it's just fantastic. It was a great
Sorry,
conversation.
sorry. You were breaking up there. Can you just repeat what you were saying there
Sure.
about you just? Or,
Okay. The sorry, what part?
you said that you contacted somebody, or somebody contacted you, and then you started breaking up.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we're in contact with a person that's actually been doing what we're proposing doing on Indiegogo. We just found out about him. I think it was last night.
Okay, you're still breaking up. You're
Okay, just hang on a sec.
you're still breaking up. So I'll just I think I know what you're talking about. But we found this gentleman in Vermont, and he's actually been picking up garbage with horses and a wagon for 18 years. This has been going on, so it's not really catching on. But we were chatting with him, and it's so awesome because he's going to be sharing his design for his garbage wagon that he uses, so that we can kind of have a template for our custom wagons that we're going to be building. We've already been in contact with the manufacturer of the wagons. However, we may be able to get it done for either for a little bit less expense, because he's going to share his blueprint. So if we can use his blueprint, probably that'll save us a bit of money in having our fabricator have to design it for us. So that's super exciting. That's what you're talking about too, right, Larry? The guy in Vermont? You're muted, or your microphone's not working or something. But yeah, I saw that and I was like, so I got such a huge confidence boost. Since we launched our campaign, we haven't got any pledges yet. So I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, can we really do this? Is it really possible? People don't seem to believe in our ability to pull it off. And then this morning, I got this video from Larry showing this guy that's been picking up garbage this way for 18 years. So obviously it works. It's proven. If he can do it for 18 years, definitely there's no reason why you, me, or anybody else shouldn't be able to pull it off. So for me, seeing that, it was just like, okay, we can definitely make this happen. And it just got me a little bit more excited and allowed me to feel a lot more confident about our ability to make it happen. And so just seeing that video alone has just helped me to realize that irregardless of this money, there will be some way, somehow in the future that we'll be able to implement this idea and make it happen. So we're just going to work. We're just going to work on it until it goes forward.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Oh, good. Yeah, guess what? I'm using Internet Explorer.
Did you switch to Chrome, I hope?
No. Should I?
Well, we'll see if you break up more.
Okay, I know. I think I'm going to do that in the future. It makes sense. I was good. I don't know while I was gone. Did you mention that this person that we were talking to is also going to be he's joining us on our campaign team?
No, I didn't mention that, but that's going to be another thing. He was telling us about how he wants to upgrade his garbage wagon, and so we said, well, if um, you join our team, you can get to know how crowdfunding works, and maybe we can work on a campaign in the future so that you can upgrade your equipment. Because we were mutually discussing how with an endeavor in a project like this, it's not really a big money maker. Like our recycle, it's profitable, but it makes us a good living. However, it's not like we have $50,000 sitting in the bank just waiting to make this project happen. And with this gentleman, you know, significant expense to his wagons as well, probably around $10,000 if it's anything like the prices that we were quoted. So potentially just being a guy that's going around collecting garbage with his horses, and he said there's not a lot of money in it. So potentially we are creating like a mutually beneficial situation where he can help us with his expertise and all his experience, and we can potentially help him with our experiences on the internet and with our own crowdfunding campaign. So potentially our campaign we may be able to learn enough knowledge and lessons that we can help other people. Like, oh, I'm trying so desperately to grasping for the guy's name. Anyway, so that we can help other people like the gentleman in Vermont to be able to raise money for their important, valuable work that they're doing out there all around the globe. So, yeah, super excited that he's also agreed to join our team and that potentially work in different capacities to really spread this idea that obviously works around and get more trucks off the road and have just less pollution in our neighborhoods. So it looks like Larry's having difficulty. There you are. What was the guy's name again? Trying to remember. Pat, right. Pat in Vermont.
Yeah, I've got more detail info that you can add to this later. I'm not looking it up now. I just switched to Google Chrome.
Good.
Not working any better.
So we're coming up to the top of the hour. Did you have any other thoughts about crowdfunding disrupting the banking industry, or?
Well, one thing that's been on my mind is on how when the difference when you go to a bank, it's almost like it's very uncomfortable. I don't know if it's uncomfortable for all business people to go meet with their bank. I've heard that banks have changed in that way, as that customer service has really taken a back seat over, I guess, controlling money. Is more of what the banks are kind of focused on rather than helping others. They're kind of protecting other people's money. I don't know if that's really true or not. It's just what I've been understand is occurring. And with crowdfunding, man, it seems like there is so much more help and positive vibrations from working with um, these crowdfunding platforms. They're run by people. Yeah,
there sure wasn't anybody getting a hold of me and offering to write a blog post about the fact that the bank wouldn't give us a loan. But I've already got one message from a recycle type blog that wants to do an article about our campaign. So
that is so awesome. Yeah, and I didn't even know that. I got one the other day that was directed at me as well, and I put in my 2 cents worth as well. And I guess that's going to be a different blog. I'll have to forward that on to the rest of the team. But yeah, that sort of assistance is unheard of in when dealing with a bank. Like how many times and banks they rely on the telephones, and I remember certain banks advertising that when you call them, you're always going to talk to a person, and that lasted maybe 6 months. And now when you phone the bank, yeah, you're back to an answering machine. So it's kind of weird. I really hope crowdfunding. I hope crowdfunding replaces the banks, because if you've got a good idea and if you understand the actual the true new world order does not really involve the Illuminati. It got hung on them because they control a lot of the money of the planet. But the true new world order, it was like I always think of the song by the band The Police back in the '80s. One world is enough for all of us. It's a lyric for one of their songs that they had on one of their records. With the internet, I think that's possible, and the stuff we're talking about. There seems to be way more possibilities working with crowdfunding and the internet than there is with a bank.
I totally agree, and definitely feel that is where people are going to be going in the future with their business plans. Yeah, and it's a great testing ground because the bank will not look at the bank will look at your business plan in the capacity of what the numbers show. With crowdfunding, people look at your business plan, your idea in the context of what is the value to them as the consumer. So it's been told that people have gone to crowdfunding with an idea, and they have been grateful for their failure because they realized that they failing at it, that their idea was something that people didn't actually want. So by turning to crowdfunding and having an unsuccessful campaign, they actually saved themselves time and money that they would have invested into a business or a product that was never going to
lowers the risk.
Consumer. Yes, definitely. The bank is not going to look at your product and analyze whether or not consumers are going to buy it. They're only going to look at the numbers that you provide. And so with Kickstarter, you get a wide variety, or with any crowdfunding, you get a wide variety of people that kind of get to vote on whether your idea is good or not with their dollars.
You actually know if there's been crowdfunding projects that have happened, and then once they were successful, they return to the organization, or people would return back to crowdfunding for another project or to further a project?
Yeah, definitely. That happens. Because people that are successful on Kickstarter, they come up with more ideas, right? And they've already got that ability to engage an audience, which I think is maybe what we're lacking a little bit. We don't exactly have an engaged audience on the internet as of yet, but we're building towards that. And we have a customer base. However, we're hoping to get a little bit of backing happening before we turn to our customer base. But eventually, I think that our already existing customers are going to be who comes through with the big donations. So we're kind of holding off on putting the word out to them en masse, just to see what we can do from outside of our community on the internet. And then when we have our event on Earth Day, then we'll have a big push for the people within the community to support us. So we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants, not really knowing exactly what we're doing or how it's going to turn out. But at the same time, we're learning so much valuable information that I already feel like we're successful with it. Just with the learning experience alone, it's worth it.
Yeah, and I think that holds true for a lot of businesses. A lot of businesses, you have a plan, and if things don't go as planned, what are you doing? You're flying by the seat of your pants. And sometimes that works as long as you got a good head on your shoulders.
Well, let's hope that between the two heads being better than one, that they'll be good enough to make it fly. And like I say, if things don't work out, I'm on this path and I'm staying the course because, you know, I've been disappointed with other things that we've tried, especially that government grant really got me down and disappointed. However, I want it bad enough that I'm just going to keep trying until I find something that works. So we're coming up to the top of the hour, and at this time, I like to invite anybody who's watching on the page to click the button below and join us on the Empower Hour. It's going to be starting in just a few minutes, and I'm super excited to announce that today, our company founder, David Wood, is going to be having a special guest on the Empower Network. Our Mummy on a Mission from Australia, Sarita D. Cleese, is going to be sharing her story on the Empower Network. And I had the amazing opportunity back in December to travel to Australia and meet Sarita and participate in the Oz Mastermind, where she shared some of the social media strategies that she's used. She's been able to create over $100,000 of income in her online business in less than 2 years, I believe. Income's not typical. However, I'm super excited that she'll be sharing her story. It's super powerful to see a single mom being able not only to support her 2 kids and get by, but to actually thrive and be able to provide her 2 kids with a phenomenal lifestyle because of her internet business. And so I'm so grateful for internet marketing. It's because of being a part of the Empower Network that I even have any level of confidence to be able to even attempt to do a crowdfunding campaign. I came to Empower Network as someone who is completely ignorant of computers and the whole internet. I didn't have Facebook. I wasn't on Google. I didn't know about any of this stuff. My internet experience was limited to checking email. I had difficulty sending email, but typically I could check my email and I could search for and watch videos on YouTube. And since then, Empower Network has allowed me to plug into all social media from Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram. And I haven't really mastered any of this social media stuff, but I've been learning and growing and moving powerfully towards mastery of social media and internet marketing simply by tuning in to calls like the Empower Network call and meeting and listening to thought leaders and people, entrepreneurs, just like Sarita D. Cleese. So I really, really would love for you to click the button and join us on the Empower Network. It's starting in 1 minute, so we're going to sign off. Any final words, Larry? No? Okay, so my final words, as always, is that I'm a firm believer that in this life, absolutely anybody can be, do, and have anything they want, or we can have everything we want. And I choose everything, and I hope you will too, because you can. So tune into the Power Network, find out how, have an amazing day, and if I don't see you in the future, I'll see you out in the pasture tomorrow morning. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye, Larry.